Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of GuigLit. Thank you for joining us once again for the videos on books, beards and beyond. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of a detour onto A Christmas Carol. I know a lot of you have mentioned this and wanting to go through a few of the key points in the book in terms of maybe quotes in particular. So today, here I am giving you 10 quotes I think that you need to know in preparation for an examination on A Christmas Carol. Regardless of your examination board, regardless of the questions, quotes are vital. And in A Christmas Carol, quotes are especially important. So I'm giving you a range of the ones not often considered, but can be used in a wide range of examples. So, as always, what can you do with this video? Well, a little bit different today actually. A little bit different in terms of my advice. Firstly, as always, take notes, okay? Can't recommend that enough. Making sure we're pausing, reflecting on the content of today's video, making sure we're going through the material there. Test yourself, okay? One of the most easy, most effective methods of learning the quotes is to test yourself again and again and again on what they are. Here are just 10. I can almost guarantee that if you were to watch this video back or repeat your viewing of it over time, days, weeks, and certainly by the summer examinations, you could have a really strong grasp of all 10 of them. So really test yourself. And one of the best ways of testing yourself is to just repeat. When you think about some of the songs you enjoy, or even a theme tune from a television program you may have grown up with, you remember those words or lyrics because you heard it so often, because you've been you've taken it on board so many times and been exposed to it so many times. This is no different. It's the same part of your brain working through words, phrases, quotes to understand them. Can't stress this enough. If you do this once, it isn't going to be effective as doing it once again and again and again over time. So, how these are going to work. Here are my rules for today's quotes. A few little ground rules just to make sure we've got an understanding of the best quotes and how the best ways of memorizing these quotes. Now, I'm giving you 2 quotes per stave. So they start off with 2 from stave 1 up to the final 2 being in stave 5. So they go in stave order, chronological. Keep your quotes as open as possible. They could be relevant in many different ways or address a number of different themes. They could have different levels of importance. Now, that's really, really important. Keep them as open as possible. They'll be able to be used in a range of different questions in that way. Also, keep them as short as possible. In my classes, rule of thumb is generally 6 to 8 words. Now, some quotes you'll see today may not be that or may not follow that slightly. However, where I can, I've included the 3 dots you see there. The use of an ellipsis helps you to cut down the bits from a quote you may not necessarily need. In addition, not all the quotes will be about our protagonist Ebenezer Scrooge. Granted, the entire plot centers around his development and subsequent redemption, but a lot of the quotes will come from different characters or could be concerning different characters. I think that's really important, particularly characters like the Cratchits, particularly characters like Fred, that will help reinforce our understanding of not just them, but thematic questions that could appear as well. And also, don't forget, practicing these quotes over and over again is super effective. However, in an examination context, if you muddle the words slightly, if you paraphrase them, if you substitute a hard and sharp as flint for a sharp and hard as flint, switch the words around or mistake them for an alternative adjective in that case, it's still okay. Make sure you just quote accurately. Use your quotation marks and make sure you're applying the methods and the quote to the best of your knowledge. Okay, so without further ado, we're going on to quote 1. First quote is, Marley was dead to begin with. You'll notice some of the words here are in red. These are the kind of most important parts of the quote. If you were to take a quote and then further analyze and evaluate the quote, this is the part I would say. Now, this is the first line in the entire novella. I think it's a really important quote because what's so interesting about it is, for a book that is so heavily centered on Ebenezer Scrooge, the first words are on his financial partner, his co-worker, Marley. Marley was dead to begin with. That phrase there, to begin with, is even more important because it implies this sense that nothing else can happen and nothing else can be done unless he is dead. And we see that subsequent allusion to Hamlet's father later on, another character who, without his death, there cannot be no plot. So this quote here really reinforces the importance of the character of Jacob Marley and the spirits as a whole. Without them, there is no journey to Scrooge's redemption. So there's my first quote. Now, second quote of the 10, and also from Stave 1, is the clerk's fire looked like one coal. The clerk, as we know, is Bob Cratchit, the worker for Ebenezer Scrooge. And we see this idea of him being given such miserable, awful conditions in terms of where he works. This is in his probably first description where his workspace is referred to as a tank or cell. We see how miserable Bob Cratchit's working conditions are, and as a result, how cruelly Ebenezer Scrooge originally treats him. Notice that phrase, like one coal, so small, so insignificant in the grand scheme of things in terms of the comforts he's provided with by Ebenezer Scrooge. Moving on, quote 3 from Stave 2. A solitary child is left there still. This quote can be found when the ghost of Christmas Past is showing Scrooge his past, and we see how the child Scrooge becomes the adult Scrooge. And we see a lot of this is born and shaped by the sense of neglect. We see the adjective solitary here in a solitary child, just as Ebenezer Scrooge, is described as solitary as an oyster in Stave 1. Please give me a comment down below in the box down below if there's any questions you may have about some of these quotes. I'd be happy to answer them, by the way. Fourth quote. Take me back, haunt me no longer. Some of Ebenezer Scrooge's final words in Stave 2, where he's so afraid and so shocked by the Ghost of Christmas Past's revelations that he is too distressed to see what is going on and cannot any longer take the reminiscences, the visions, and this idea of haunts, this idea that he is negatively impacting Scrooge, making him look at more painful aspects, more traumatic aspects of his past. Really, really important. Halfway now, we're looking at our final quote on Stave 2. The first quote on Stave 3, rather. The mention of Scrooge's name cast a dark shadow. Now, in Stave 3, the Ghost of Christmas Present shows a number of different scenes, one of which is at the Cratchit family dinner. And when Bob is raising a toast to the for the Cratchits, on behalf of the Cratchits, rather, to Scrooge, the name casts a dark shadow. We see here that the Cratchit family, despite Bob's forgiving attitude and the spirit of Christmas, is very much one of negativity towards Ebenezer Scrooge, casting a dark shadow, this idea that they don't like the man who Bob's wife describes as such a stingy, hard, odious, unfeeling man as Ebenezer Scrooge. They very much dislike him. And we see Scrooge realizes this, Scrooge is shown this, and he's mortified by the way he is considered. Our last quote here in Stave 3. I mean to give him the same chance every year. This quote is told by Fred, Scrooge's nephew, when they are using Scrooge as the subject of jokes and a laugh and merriment at the Christmas party that Scrooge is looking in upon. We see Fred's forgiving attitude, Fred's genial, friendly demeanour. I mean to give him the same chance every year. Notice that phrase, every year. That Fred will never give up on hope. Fred will never give up his invitation to Scrooge and the fact, or the belief rather, that his own uncle can change his ways. Moving into Stave 4 now, we see Ghost of the Future, I fear you more than any spectre I have seen. Ebenezer Scrooge says this very quote at the start of Stave 4, and when he's confronted by the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come, or as he describes him here, the Ghost of the Future, we see here how he fears him more than any spectre. So he's already had Jacob Marley as a ghost, and the spirits of the Ghost of Christmas Past and the Ghost of Christmas Present. However, he's more terrified not only of it because of its physical presence and its similarities to the Grim Reaper, but he's also scared of it because of what it could show him. He realizes that his ways in life have been bad, and he's going to see the consequences of it. So we see this genuine sense of terror and fear in Ebenezer Scrooge. Going on to quote 8 now. I have known him walk with Tiny Tim upon his shoulder. In this very sad scene, we see Ebenezer Scrooge being confronted with the death of Tiny Tim as a result of his actions. And what happens here is we get a description from the family, the Cratchit family, prior to Bob coming home. And this quote is really pertinent, and I think there's a really hidden meaning behind this. I have known him walk with Tiny Tim upon his shoulder, the him referring to Bob Cratchit. Now, in a number of different illustrations, you'd see a version not too dissimilar to the one in front of you here, of Bob holding the feeble and disabled Tiny Tim almost as his protector, as it were. Now, this image, particularly Tiny Tim upon his shoulder, is a really evocative and very vivid image from Christianity of St. Christopher and the baby Jesus we see here on the right. We see this idea of him almost being a protector, but equally Dickens is making a subtle allusion to Tiny Tim here being almost, like Christ the Redeemer, this redemptive quality of the small innocent child, just like the baby Jesus in the story of St. Christopher. So there's a really deliberate allusion here between Tiny Tim almost being a symbol of hope, Bob Cratchit being a protector, and drawing upon those Christian allusions in the novella. Our penultimate quote goes to Stave 5 now, where we see Scrooge say he is as happy as an angel. Notice the phrase there, as an angel, this simile, drawing upon Christian imagery again, but Christian imagery of redemption, an angel, someone or a quality of a figure ascended or close to God. We see this idea of him being redeemed in a very Christian way. And our final quote for today draws from the end of Stave 5, how to Tiny Tim, he, Ebenezer Scrooge, was a second father. Notice how Scrooge's turnaround and Scrooge's changes can really be seen in the fortunes of the Cratchits, both Tiny Tim, Bob, and the wider family. We see how Scrooge changes his ways, and to Tiny Tim, someone he'd never met before, we have no proof he'd ever met, he becomes a second father. Okay, Scrooge only has one living relative in his life, of Fred. And we see how distant he was to him before, but now he is like a second father. We see how close he becomes to Tiny Tim and the Cratchits. There's also a very almost beautiful contrast here between how his own father, Scrooge's own father, is presented in Stave 2, kind of cruel and uncaring by his sister Fan, and we see the compassionate, heartwarming side of Ebenezer Scrooge in him becoming a second father to Tiny Tim. Just as I mentioned at the start of this video, pause these quotes, look back through them, test yourself with your friends, really use these to your advantage. So they are our 10 quotes. There you have them. I hope they've been of use. I hope they will help you in whatever examinations you have, be it trial or mock exams or the summer exams themselves. Please give this video a thumbs up and a like. It really supports the channel. As well as any comments, please leave them below and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. Please like this video, as I said, give this video a share to all your friends or family members or anybody interested in books, beards and beyond. And you can find us, as always, on Twitter @LitGuig and on Instagram as well @GuigLit. So, as I said before, hope this video has helped you an awful lot. Thank you once again for joining in and tuning in. Really appreciate all the help you provide. And until next time, have a wonderful week. And I'll see you with another video back here, same time next week. Take care. Bye-bye.